Hey, what's up everyone? This is Brandon Bias from Mosaic.com here with a Photoshop beginner tutorial. Yeah, I know, some of you are probably thinking, "Aw man, I was hoping you guys would have another advanced tutorial, not another beginner tutorial." I agree, advanced tutorials are pretty awesome, but we've been kind of busy lately, with our own little projects here and there, and we just didn't have the time to come up with an advanced tutorial. But nonetheless, this beginner tutorial is still pretty cool. And the name of the effect we're going over today is something that I like to call Mosaic Dots. And this is what the Mosaic Dots would look like if you applied it to a picture like this. Bam. And as you can see, this picture is just basically turned into a bunch of 3D-ish looking dots, and I went ahead and added a vignette for the heck of it. And the cool thing about this is that it's actually really easy to do. And on top of that, all of these dots are their own one single color. So basically this entire picture is now made up of single color dots. And to me, that's just really awesome. So that's what we're going to go over today. So go ahead and open up the picture that you want to apply the effect to. And as soon as you have it open, if it's got a lock on it, go ahead and just double click the layer and name it whatever you want. I'm just going to name this T-Bone because that's Trexton's rapper name. And go to the bottom right hand corner and click the create a new layer icon to make a new layer. And we're just going to double click the layer 1 name and we're just going to call it BG for background. And if you head over here to the paint bucket tool, go ahead and make sure that your fill setting is set to foreground. And make sure that your foreground color is actually set to black down here. And then just give your foreground color a click and that should fill it up with black for you. And we're actually just going to drag the BG below T-Bone because that's going to be essential later. If you want, that can be white. Up to you. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and select the T-Bone layer. And we're going to go over here to the elliptical marquee tool. And make sure your style is set to fixed size. And this is where you're going to decide the size of the circles and dots that you're going to be making. And I've got a pretty large photo right here. It's 1440 by 900, so I went with a width and height of 15 pixels. If you have something smaller, then maybe you want to cut that in half or something, so like 7 or 8 pixels or something like that. And as soon as you've got these filled into the dimensions that you want your dots to be, go ahead and go to Filter, Pixelate, Mosaic, hence the Mosaic Dots name over here. And go ahead and put in the size of the dots that you were deciding on earlier. And what you want to do is actually add 2 pixels onto that. So instead of 15, I'm going to have 17 because I want a little bit of room between all of my dots. So you'll see how that's going to work in just a little bit. So as soon as you got your cell size plus 2, go ahead and hit OK. And that's just going to kind of pixelate your entire picture there. And we're actually going to go ahead and make a new document and make it the same dimensions as what you did the pixelate or the mosaic effect on. So I'm going to go with 17 by 17 for my width and height and hit OK. And as soon as that's open, I'm going to go ahead and zoom this up to canvas size by hitting Control 0. That way I can see what I'm doing just a little bit better. And I'm actually going to go back to my paint bucket tool and I'm going to fill this in with black. And then I'm going to go back to my elliptical marquee tool right here and swap the foreground and background color and make sure that's set to white right there. And since the style is set to fixed size, I know I can just click somewhere and be able to reposition my circle somewhere in the middle. And then once you've got your circle in the middle, go ahead and let go and go back to your paint bucket tool over here and fill it in with white. And so now you should have this 15 by 15 pixel white dot, and it has a 1 pixel border around it. That's why we changed it to 17 by 17 pixels. It gives it that little black border around it. So as soon as you've got all of that done, go ahead and go to Select All or Control A or Command A for you shortcut lovers out there. And when you have your entire canvas selected, you're going to want to go to Edit, Define Pattern, and just name it something convenient like dots, and just hit OK. And then swap back over to your photo that you want to put the effect on, and give your layer a layer mask by clicking this icon right here. And then with your paint bucket tool, you want to change your fill style from foreground to pattern. And then as you should see, the dots pattern that we made just a few seconds ago should be right there. So we'll give that a double click. And go ahead and make sure that your layer mask is selected, not the picture. You can tell the difference by clicking on one or the other. So with that layer mask selected, go ahead and just click anywhere in the picture, and that will automatically add all of those dots to your picture. And hey, that was pretty easy and pretty cool. And since it was that easy, let's go ahead and make these a little bit more interesting. With the T-bone layer selected, let's go ahead and add a bevel and emboss effect down here in the bottom. And we're not going to do anything too different. We're just going to change the depth to about maybe 50% or so, and change the angle to 120 degrees instead of 30. And that's all there is to that. Go ahead and toy with those as you want on your own pictures. And we'll hit OK. And this is actually a little bit too dark for my liking, so I'm going to actually add a little bit of contrasting. So I'm going to add an adjustment layer, and I'm just going to stick with levels for now. And I'm going to drag the blacks in just a little bit, and I'm going to bring the whites in just a little bit more. And then if you double click and close that up and click the eye on and off to do a little bit of before and after, you can see what contrasting does to the photo. It really makes it pop out a little bit more. And if you want to put on that vignette that you saw in this image right here, that's actually not a huge deal. I'm going to make a new layer, and I'm going to call it Vin for Vignette. And I'm going to go to my brushes because I actually made this as a brush preset called Vignettes by It. And I'll just hit OK. And unfortunately, this picture is a little bit too big for my brush. So I'm actually going to go to Image, Canvas Size, and put it down to the right size, which is 1920 by 1080. Oops, 1080 right there. Hit OK. Proceed. So that's good right there. Now let's see if we can size this down a little bit. And let's see. That's actually, yep, that looks good to me. Okay, so I have successfully resized my image without making all the pixels retarded. Now I can actually go ahead and add my vignette. So I've got my 1920 by 1080 vignette right here. I'll just make sure that's straight. Give it a click. And that's the wrong color. Let's make this black. Boom. And that looks pretty awesome to me. So hey, what do you know? That's all there is to it. So if you guys want to go ahead and download the vignettes right there, then I'm gonna go ahead and make them into a project file for our website. That way you can go ahead and go download them from there. And I hope you guys learned something new like usual. If you have any questions, go ahead and send us a message, especially if you've got a request for another tutorial. So that's all there is for today, guys. We'll see you next time.